My nephew is one of the Boogaloo Crew dancers, and I went to see him perform in Washington, D.C. about 4 years ago. And on the show was the beatboxer Shodekeh. And I was really blown away by his performance. And we just kind of met and stayed in touch. And I began to think of a project to do with him, and it just kind of evolved into this big work here, where we have 4 composers got commissioned to work with 7 musicians and 3 dancers. Chamber music, art music, mixing with a beatboxer, with a jazz soloist, with a classical soprano, not to mention breakdancing. So I'm not sure what to expect. I just know this, that the composers the music's fantastic. Everyone individually is fantastic. I can't imagine anything less than something thoroughly enjoyable.
I was particularly attracted to this project because it gave me a chance to explore a lot of the things that I find really interesting in music, which is essentially the balancing of improvisation and notated music, coming up with a framework for somebody to say something really interesting within the confines of a piece that I've written.
It's been really interesting to work with the colliding of different art forms with classical piano trio. Adding trombone, which is the piece I wrote, is not a typical addition to the classical trio, and then also having the vocal percussionist human beatbox. It's a really nice mashup, I guess you can say, if you want to talk about contemporary terminology, happening right in the music world.
This is going to be interesting because it's not just a mashup between classical music and hip-hop music, but also jazz as well. And I haven't done anything quite like this before. It's going to be very structured, but there will also be a lot of room for improvisation as well. So it'll be a jazz chamber fusion concert, if you will.
The thing that's been fun for me is that this is it's a more traditional classical setting in some ways, and yet we're rehearsing in a much more open-ended way.
We're very conscious of having different types of events happening, so it's not too much of the same. We've been very careful about that. So I'm hoping and expecting it to be really quite something phenomenal.
You know, I'm hoping that people who enjoy chamber orchestral classical music, people who enjoy jazz music, people who enjoy hip-hop music can come to this concert and enjoy this, this collage of musical genres and sort of forget that they're listening to jazz, classical, or hip-hop. They're just listening to music.
That's what's happening in the world right now. I think it's really important to connect people from different parts of not only the musical spectrum, but maybe a cultural spectrum, and kind of bring them into this common space, and what they choose to bring from that, what parts they get out of it. That's the wonderful part, and it's going to be something different for each person depending on their background. And so that's kind of the really great thing about this project, I think.